The very first ride I wanted to build in my theme park was a Ferris wheel, and I had to give up. Actually, there's still some parts left of it that I haven't reused for other models yet, like this little pod right here. You can open up the sides, and the idea is that a passenger goes in the middle, the sides close, and off we go. So then it would ride around. I never completed this ride. It was almost impossible to get to work, and that's why I gave up. And the first ride that I actually finished was Bouncy Castle instead. But now I'm trying with a new Ferris wheel, and that's why I'm making this video, so that you can see what kind of challenges you have to encounter if you're going to not just make a Ferris wheel, but make a Ferris wheel that is able to pick up passengers and have them leave the ride again. I have brought Plane Flyer with me here to the table as well, so that you can see these two rides next to each other. And also because I made some updates to that ride. As an example, the name is not Plane Flyers, it's Plane Flyer without an S. So I fixed that. That's what happens when you try to remember stuff just from memory without verifying, but it's fixed now. I have also updated this module in other ways. Namely, I've changed the mechanism for making sure that the track only goes in one direction, because once in a while the input shaft here is a bit difficult to turn, and that gives it a jerky motion, and it also takes up a lot of space in the module. So that has been replaced by a new mechanism. You saw it first time on Coconut Shy, but here it is upgraded. That's the mechanism I'm also using in this new ride. The updated mechanism can be seen in Plane Flyer when I open for the Gadget Slots, like this, and I can pull this back. And here you can see it. So the motor is right here. It's connected to this little mechanism that goes back and forth. So when it changes direction, it either goes on this side and pulls the track forward, or the other side and pulls the track forward. I can show you it here in action in the big wheel module. The first thing that really strikes the eye when seeing this module is this beautiful colorful pillar that we have right here. And that is of course not the real colors of the module when it's finished. However, it is much quicker to build this than something like this. Over there we are talking about 5 minutes of work, whereas this takes several hours. So when I initially designed this module just to get started, it was much quicker to just get started by building the brick built side, and then afterwards I could make it pretty, or afterwards I could make a different design once I knew the correct height and how things are going to act with each other. Here you can also see that I'm having a manual way of working with this module, so that I don't have to always run the motors. As an example, I can turn the wheel from here, and I can lift the tracks by turning the handle here. And in that way, it makes it much easier for me to debug and build and design this module than if I had to always turn on a motor in order to do these things. The part design is extremely basic. I really want to make sure that there is an opening brace in front, so that the people are not accidentally falling out. However, implementing that is going to be extremely difficult, so for now we're just leaving it open. I try to make it rounded in the design because that's how it is in the video game. The parts have a core of Technic, and there's a good reason for doing that, and that is in order to make them strong enough, because they are going to be turning around a lot. They're being grabbed from below. If it was just made fully of Lego, the parts would slowly pull from each other. Technic, since it uses pins, it has a tendency to go back together so that the parts don't get disassembled so easily, and that is a good reason for using Technic. And that's why I did the same with the Plane Flyer module, and why you also see everything that is moving around is typically made of Technic, or always has a Technic frame. The wheel itself is a 6-spoke design. In the core, I'm using these hexagons from the Harvester and other Lego sets in order to get the angles correct. You can see it's a fairly fragile or simple design, and that's because that's how it is in the video game. I try to keep the parts not too heavy, and in that way I don't need to have so much support here in the middle for these arms that go out. However, I still still am trying to make this core axle as strong as possible, and that's why I don't just have a Lego cross axle, I also have these wheels with a lot of Technic pins in them, in order to make sure that we have a strong axle here in the middle that actually holds the wheel. And that is quite important, because otherwise it would be sagging in the middle, and that would eventually bend the Lego parts. Also worth noting that there are some places where we really have to compromise. I will need a pillar, not this, but something prettier, in the final model, because it is not possible just to hold it from one side like you see in the video game, because of physical limitations in the real world and building of this fairly soft material that Lego is made of. And that just means that I have to, well, compromise the design a little bit. I have removed the big wheels so that you can see what's going on here underneath. And as you know, the track is able to lift up and go down again. And that is in order to clear space underneath of the parts so that they can pass by safely. And also it lifts up in order to make sure that we can get people inside of the parts. So they keep riding here, get into the part, and then it goes down again, because then the people will be grabbed into the pot using these Technic parts here in the sides. The lifting mechanism is fairly simple. We have these arms, 3 long, that turn around. That's why we have all these gears here in the side. And power is given to this track using the gear you see here. It just goes down to the main track so that they are connected. And finally, this last piece of the track is moving up and down because these two are just connected to each other mechanically. These parts here in the back that are grabbing onto the pod, they're simply there to make sure that the pod is in the right position so that people can get inside. The other moving parts of this design would be the railing here that moves with the track. That is important because otherwise it would disturb the pods as they go past. Here you can see when I'm moving the main track here up, this other part here moves up as well, and that is to make sure that people do not get trapped here between the tracks, because that would be a position that would potentially destroy the module and, well, kill the passengers. We don't want to do that. Instead, they are being locked in here and unable to be 2 people inside of a pod at one time. This part of the track, of course, moves a bit up in order to accommodate that. In the beginning, when I designed this module, I only had this track here move away from this part of the track, which of course inevitably made people fall into a hole here and, yeah, ruin their day. Now the second design had this part here move down as this part moves up. That turned out to also be a bad design decision because people got stuck here under this part of the track. They fell down. Well, that was no good either. So now only this part of the track lifts up, not this part. And that turns out to be much better for the pathfinding of these people. Now there's still a risk for them falling out here, so I still have to reinforce this area right here, but otherwise it seems like the people are fairly happy with how they can get in and out of this module. And I have updated the design right here for a little more simplistic design than compared to what you see in Plain Flyer, in order to make sure that people can pass by safely and also get into the module and out without any issues. So this is just the latest iteration of that design. Finally, we have the tower. In the video game, it is just a big white block that is holding the wheel. Of course, we can't do that in Lego because we need support from the other side. However, this part of the tower is pretty much as it is in the video game. Now it is a bit pregnant here because the Lego NXT motor is a big bulky part, and I also don't want to hide it in the base of the module because I want to reduce the amount of mechanism that is moving between the wheel and, of course, the motor itself. So that's why the design is like this. It is supported by these braces here to the sides so that it doesn't move to the side. And as you can see, this whole part of the base here is at an angle. I have achieved that by just using a lot of these 1x1 round plates placed in so that you go 3 in one direction, 4 in the other direction, because then there's a distance of 5 between them. And then I could simply place this whole section of the module at an angle. It's quite easy. Definitely something I recommend because it breaks up this very Lego-like setup when all the buildings are standing diagonal to to each other, and that doesn't look very natural. And in the video game it also stands at an angle, so this is as it should be. Finally, we have gadget slots in this module. You open up just like you saw in Planefly, and you're able to replace this section. That's a fairly normal thing I have in my modules nowadays. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and found all the details I gave of this module and the challenges insightful. In that case, please interact with this video. And in the future, I'm going to make a presentation video once this module is finished. And of course, I'm going to make presentation videos of all new MMM modules. And that is all for this video. So take care, have fun, and I will see you in the next video.